Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Dr. Henry, and my academic interests are intellectual history, political theory, secularization, human rights. I love those topics. And I want to talk a little bit about some political theory and intellectual history, specifically Senator Schumer, who's in a hot seat right now. And I already did a video on my understanding of his decision to support the CR bill. But I want to go a little further. A lot of people want to primary him. People think that he's a traitor and or too weak to stand up to Donald Trump, which I disagree with. Um, if anyone wants to find somebody better, then they should pursue someone better. I mean, it's about getting the best that we can. But the reason why is something that I'm interested in sort of challenging or having a discussion on, especially if the reason is because of his recent decision to escort the CR bill to Trump's desk. So here's the thing. I think the best way to do this is to recall the Project 2025 agenda. And if you are against Schumer right now because of his signing of the bill, then I'm sure you are familiar with the Project 2025 issue prior to Trump's election. Democrats were telling people that Project 2025 was Trump's agenda. A lot of people rejected it because Trump said, "Oh, that's not my agenda. I have nothing to do with that." And it turns out he is fulfilling Project 2025. Now, Project 2025 was released to the public around April 2023, and about 100 conservative think tank were a part of the building of that agenda. So all the conservative minds, everybody on the right who had something to say, who had a stake in a conservative American dream, were a part of that. And they developed a myth of duels for Donald Trump. And as we can see, he's following through. Within that same year, a few months later, in October, there was another document put up. And this document is called Irregular Order. And it was produced by the Claremont Institute, which is on the board of advisors of Project 2025 and is considered by some to be the driving force of Trump's sort of political philosophy and ideas and maybe even strategy. We can go as far to say. Now, why is this important? Being the sponsors of this essay called Irregular Order, we would have to take seriously that Trump is connected to what's in this essay. And I think once you realize what's in this essay, you won't take Trump for granted anymore. And you won't sleep on Schumer and probably stop fronting on him, if I may add. So let's go to this essay. I want to talk briefly about part one. So the purpose of this is to help the next America First president succeed in taking over the American government and renovating it and refashioning it. Okay, in order to do that, they have to take down the deep state. Here's the deal. Notice that they're saying the next America First administration. They're talking about the next America First administration. Ideally, that would be Trump for them, but they're looking beyond Trump. They're looking at their future. So let me stress right now that Trump is following this blueprint, irregular order, more closely than he's following Project 2025. Let's see. So one of the first things they're saying is fixing personnel. fixing personnel. That means Trump has to get the people who are going to fight for him, get people who are going to pledge allegiance to him. In order to do that, he has to remove workers in the federal government. He has to remove as many as possible. In fact, to do this, he needs to chop it up in big chunks. They recommend wholesale approaches. Now, many people, when Trump got in, especially those who voted against Trump, were not freaked out by him moving forward with Project 2025, coming after DEI. Like, we get that, coming after trans immigrants. We get that. But his slicing and dicing, his shattering of entire agencies, his insertion of people who are not qualified, but who are pledging allegiance to him, caught a lot of people off guard. But had we known about this blueprint along with Project 2025, we would not have been surprised, and we should not have been surprised. All right? Even I was surprised, but we should not have been surprised because this was their game plan. They were prepared. So let's take a look again here. So another thing he had to do was, okay, make wholesale approaches. It's a necessity. Not to get into individual quabblings with this individual, this agency, this elected official. No, just chop it all off. And he has to target these agencies or the bureaucracy weakness. And notice how Trump would use the term bureaucracy. Even Elon Musk would use this term bureaucracy. It's like right here in front of our faces. Well, they already knew their memo. They did their homework. They did the homework. They're prepared, right? They're prepared for the test. This is the test. They're in test time. They're doing what they need to do. So they're attacking the bureaucracy's weakness, and that is funding. And by undermining the funding of the bureaucracy, of these agencies, you can get rid of them. They're disappear. All right. So let's just do a little bit more of this. Another recommendation here is to abandon regular order and to embrace irregular order. Does that sound familiar to you? A lot of people are dismissing Trump as being erratic, not knowing what he's doing. Clearly, he's not the mastermind of this strategy, but he is a champion of the strategy. So he knows what he's going to do a few days from now, a few weeks from now, and a few months from now. I mean, the goal is to arrive at pretty much a fascist state. And they're doing it one check at a time. They would love to have just jumped there from, okay, inauguration, crowning Trump. But it's not that easy in the United States. There are a lot of legal obstructions. Everybody in the United States are not signing on to that. And the United States is very diverse. And that diversity has permeated, thanks to the civil rights movement, that diversity has permeated throughout the entire government to all the agencies, into the military, to the health department, education department, treasury department, everywhere. And so you have people who are aligning with different American ideologies. So Trump has to purge everyone. So that's why they can't just jump from inauguration, date of inauguration, and the date of crowning, right? So these are some of the things that are in this that should ring a bell, because we're seeing this happening every single day. The cutting of bureaucracies, undermining their funding, the insertion, the appointing of minions, people who are going to just do his bidding. And let me add this. It's not just federal agencies, because they also say you have to cut agencies that have nothing to do with the government. Any agency, any institution that harbors a liberal ideology that seeks to correct civil injustice, to combat injustice to human rights, to try to help the world. Any agency or organization, cultural agencies, take them over. Anything that has any DNA related to modern liberalism, related to human rights and civil rights justice, related to pluralism and tolerance, got to get rid of it. Got to burn it up. Burn it up. That's what he's doing. However, this is only part one. Let's go to part two. Part two provides the approaches. There are three approaches. And let's look at the first approach mentioned. Voila. Shutdown. The three approaches, the three tactics that should be used are shutdowns, constitutional impoundment, we see that, and soft impoundment. Okay, we see both those two, but I want to just focus on the shutdown right now. The shutdown is one of their key strategies. It's a difficult one, but it's one of their key strategies. I don't know if Schumer was aware of this document, but he definitely helped the Democrats dodge a serious bullet. I mean, this is seriously their game plan. It's like, okay, get Trump in. Now, Trump, you want to fulfill part of 2025. However, you need a strategy. You need tactics. You don't know which one you're going to need to apply first or second or third, but you're going to have to apply one of them. And when the shutdown comes, you got to take advantage of it, because it's a good one. A shutdown could allow us to make a lot of progress very quickly. It's tough, but if you do it the right way, we got it. Check it out. So one of the things in the shutdown, they understand that the president will have way more authority to slice and dice via his power to deem what is essential and what is non-essential during a shutdown. It's like, that's your job. Somebody blows a whistle and say, okay, you're up, president. There's a shutdown. There you go. You only have a limited amount of money. Do what you got to do. Do you not think Trump will go for the most? He's going for the most when there's no shutdown. He's trying to do the most, even while the courts can obstruct and intervene. He's trying. He's shooting his shot. That's his job. That's part of the plan. You keep pushing, wear him down. But during a shutdown, as Schumer even mentioned, courts typically would have up to 2 weeks. And after that, they would have to draw in extra funds and then start prioritizing staff and cases. And Trump can just slash faster than they could see and go through a case. If even consider or reconsider his choices, because he would be right to choose what is essential and non-essential. So instead of cutting 50%, cut 80%. Just knock the whole thing out. There are a bunch of steps here. I recommend that you read it. I don't have time to go through it all here with you. You'll be bored to death. But the whole idea is to determine what is essential and to make the necessary cuts and to make this shutdown last as long as possible. Now, once the Democrats commit to a shutdown, here's the issue. they're going to be hoping that Republicans want to come back to the table because their thinking is their own voters are going to be frustrated. And I think that's a huge mistake. Yes, there are a lot of Republicans who are grieving over the cuts and being caught up, right, in the crossfire. However, Trump's core base have their sleeves rolled up. They're ready for all of this. They're absolutely ready for all of this. They're looking forward to this. They don't want to go back to a regular America. They want to go back to a fascist America. Come on, your boy Elon Musk already did the Nazi salute, giving the wink wink. All right. So I think that was not a good for me. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I feel that that's a bad gamble. Republicans have voted against their economic interests time in and time out. They have supported Buckley versus Vallejo. They have supported Citizens United. And this whole idea, if the Democrats can just woo over the working class, they will get all those voters that went to Trump to stand against Trump. Like, they willingly signed away their economic interests for other issues, more issues of identity, issues of sexuality. Like, when are we going to catch up? Anyway, I'm trying to stay focused here. So the whole idea is to try to make the shutdown last as long as possible. And under the idea of the House Democrats, okay, people are going to be going through pain and suffering, and that's going to force Republicans to come to the table. Like, well, listen, you're the ones that shut the government down. They're going to blame the Democrats. Throughout history, the group that gets blamed is the group that caused the shutdown, the group that decided not to sign up with the majority or the plan set on the table. Democrats are the minority, so everybody's going to be looking at y'all like, yo, listen, we're the majority. Republicans are the majority. We came up with a bill. Democrats tried to sabotage us because they didn't like something. And that way they can have their base, because it's very important for the base, for Trump's base, to a certain degree, to have something and someone to blame. And it would be easy to blame the Democrats. I mean, it would literally be the Democrats' fault in a sense. You get what I'm saying? Obviously, the bills are bad. The cuts are nasty, brutish. and they were like, just make life miserable. But at the end of the day, people will be relying on the Democrats to come up with a resolution. And the Republicans can say, you know what? At this point, we have to make more cuts. We don't have enough money and time is running out. Are you going to sign on to this now new agreement? Maybe you think differently, but Republican voters have already convinced us over and over and over in history since LBJ, it's Great Society, that they are willing to forego the economic interests for the sake of issues of race, identity, sexuality, and religion. Please let me know if you disagree with that. If you don't see that pattern in American history, in American politics. So the Democrats will now be at the bottom of the totem pole of the American pole, worse than what they are now, lower than what they are now, and people will be relying on them to turn things around, and they will have no ability to turn things around. And while they're scrambling and people are hurting and frustrating, more importantly, Trump is furthering his agenda to reshape the government. For him, it's like he's not even caring about the pain and suffering. His goal is to reshape the government because people will adjust to a new government, to new institutions. Many people were already ready and willing to accept his buyouts. Like, forget it, man. Like, what am I doing? And luckily, the courts came in. So, yes, Trump is doing a lot of that now, but you have to imagine if he can do it knowing that he's justified and he has a right to do it, that he's on legal ground, on firm legal ground to do it. So, yeah, so how does the shutdown end? It The goal is to make it last as long as possible. Let me go back to a quick response that I had. Well, why wouldn't the Republicans just shut the government down? Again, it would matter. So let me see here. There are three conditions for the shutdown. The shutdown, it should be, they have to sustain it politically. They have to sustain it financially, and they have to sustain it legally. So politically, they get the check politically if the Democrats shut it down, not the party that has control of all three branches of the federal government. Right then, it's like, you don't want to wake people up too much. You don't want to have to contend with the justification of the shutdown while you're making cuts that are going to be very uncomfortable. And you have to deal with all the media sob stories of people who are like frustrated, even on your base. You want to contain that outbreak. And the best way to contain an outbreak is point to whoever is at fault. And you're like, it's the Democrats. They unified and they said publicly, shut the government down. It's not my fault, it's their fault. Y'all would have still been eating. And then people would have said, you know what? Just the same way people will endure a war if it aligns with their cause, align with their beliefs or the logic that makes sense, they would endure the suffering. Okay. So these are different criteria. So, well, first let me say, so that's my response to those who would say, well, the Republicans, they're historically known to be the ones to cause the shutdowns, but they were using it as a defense. They have an offensive position, so they're not going to use the same strategy. So I think that it was an ambush. It was a setup. And Schumer was right. It was no great, there were no good options, but there was an option worse than the other. I'm going to stop here. I think that you should check out this document on your own and talk about it and talk about the other tactics that Trump is already using so that we're not surprised. You will see that Trump is using every single tactic in this essay in both parts 1 and 2. He's cutting in big chunks. He's appointing people who are pledging allegiance to him. He is, not to mention, pardoning people who pledge allegiance to him. And he is purging federal agencies, right, of those who may go against him. I think I already said that already. And he's using his ability to appoint, to fund or not fund. He's doing it with colleges, saying, if you don't pass my measures, if you don't install certain policies, if you don't take away certain programs, you won't get these funds. I am in control of these funds to give you. It's in the Constitution. It's under my jurisdiction. There's no dilemma about that. And he's using empowerment inside and out. And he's just rubbing his hands for the shutdown. Rubbing his hands for the shutdown. In fact, let's end on this. Let's go back to the shutdown. And one of the things it says about the shutdown, let me see here. This approach would be straightforward and relatively quick. With appropriate planning, it could be executed even with relatively few American first politicals in power. It would be the most politically difficult approach of the three discussed here, but success would transform shutdowns from the bureaucracy's shield into the president's sword. Thank you for checking out part 1 of this series here. Schumer stopped Democrats from crashing out Okay, more to come, and I invite your responses, your rebuttals, and everything else. Peace and love.